Hello beautiful people of the internet, my name is Yatos and welcome to a new video. Recently I saw a post from Kogi over on Twitter depicting some different versions of some popular US food chains, going from Goth IHOP to E-Girl Applebee's. And I got the urge to take my own spin on these and redesign some of my OCs as waiters and waitresses of these fine cuisine restaurants. I thought this would be a fun way for you to get to know my characters a little bit better, as well as to get a little bit of a chuckle out of these designs. So let's get to it, shall we? Alrighty, so before I actually speak about these characters, I want to first say that I had originally planned to show the sketching process for these, but ultimately decided against it because the sketching process was admittedly pretty messy. Stopping the recording left and right, forgetting to record some bits, and overall it was just pure chaos. Much like the character I'm currently drawing. This girl's name is Ava Smith, and she's one of the main characters of my main story, 10-Man Crusader. I'd share more details on the story, but really that just calls for its own video, so I'll remain tight-lipped for now. Sorry. What I can mention is a bit of background though. In her original universe, Ava is a mage that travels alongside her twin brother, Beffy, and a crusader named Barixa. Again, I want to eventually make a separate video to talk about this story, so I'm sorry this may sound pretty vague. What I can mention is that there's one restaurant that I see Ava working at, and that is E-Girl Applebee's. The reason why I see Ava being an E-Girl is because of her more fun-loving and overall very Gen Z attitude. I see her keeping close to the trends, and because she's a mage, it just seemed to fit it for her to be an e-girl, and possibly a little bit of a weeb. I always enjoy drawing Ava. She has a very cutesy, very pleasing design. She's always carrying a smile on her face, and her freckles are always a treat to draw, making her really easy for me to draw. I originally thought a more dynamic pose would suit her better, but since the point of these was to show off the designs, I ultimately decided against that idea and went for standing poses for each of them. So for all of these, I just took the main uniforms from each restaurant and gave them a little bit of a twist. For Ava, I discovered that a lot of e-girls use kind of like these crop tops, so it was fun to add those little details to her design. Speaking of little details, although it doesn't appear on camera, a friend of mine suggested I add a small black apple to reference the heart shapes most e-girls will add to their cheeks. It's little details like these that I think helps make the illustration look a bit more authentic. So to the friend who helped me out here, you know who you are. Thank you for helping me out with your keen sight for details. For the line art, I use the script brush. It's a nice standard brush. I usually like my line art to be pretty thin and crisp. Overall, I just feel that thinner lines make my pieces look better. To apply the flat colors, I set the line art layer to reference mode and drop the colors with the bucket tool. I later on shaded the flats using a modified version of the script brush set to multiply. You'll notice that for most of my art pieces, I like to render them a little bit and make the shading look softer and blended, but for these I decided to go with cell shading, which is a technique that makes the pieces look a bit more flat. I decided to color these this way because, simply put, it makes the process easier for me. If I had rendered these pieces like I normally do with most of my art, they'd probably take ages to finish. In the original post from Twitter, one of the character concepts listed was femboy hooters. Unfortunately, I do not have any femboy characters because none of my stories have actually called for me to design one. However, I do have a substitute for that, himbos. Albeit it slightly deviates from the original source, I wanted to make these feel a bit more unique to my own style of drawing. This hunk of a man is named Akio Yamada. I actually drew him beforehand in this channel. For this particular image, I wanted to show off his new design. Akio is a character that admittedly can sometimes have more muscle than brain. However, he's probably one of the sweetest characters I think I've ever made. He's extremely friendly, and overall he really enjoys social interaction, making him the perfect fit for a Himbo Hooters waiter. Out of the three of these, however, this guy was probably the most challenging to draw. I've mentioned before that I'm a bit more experienced when it comes to drawing women, so this guy was definitely a nice way to keep on practicing men's anatomy. Akio's probably one of my favorite guy characters to draw as well. I think it's mostly because of his friendly demeanor and being a pretty bright person to be around. Besides, who wouldn't like to have their food and beer be served by a friendly himbo? For his design, it was honestly not that hard to lay down. White crop top with the Hooters logo on it, orange booty shorts, and white sneakers. All stuff that was present in the original Hooters quote-unquote uniform. Big air quotes on that one, actually. This was also the piece I ended up editing out the most off camera. I forgot the color of the logo in his top, and I also ended up tweaking the mug of beer a little bit off camera and added 2 extra beers alongside it. Tiny little detail I forgot to mention. For the rendering and the shading, you'll notice that I ended up adding a little bit of a gradient. Since Procreate doesn't actually have a gradient tool itself, I ended up just shading like I normally would with cell shading and then just Gaussian blurring it. I think it gives a nice, kind of like soft effect that I really enjoy. When I originally thought out for this batch of illustrations, I had originally planned to draw a different character for this particular restaurant. But I ultimately decided against it since I didn't feel like she particularly fit as a waitress, like, at all. However, I had recently redesigned a character that did fit for this role. Meet Zero, everybody. She's one of my oldest characters and she's been around ever since I started writing stories, so she holds a very special place in my heart. However, recently I had neglected her and her story because I just didn't like the way she was looking. I just felt like the design didn't really reflect how I would normally design characters at the moment, so I redesigned her. I darkened up her skin tone to contrast her silver hair, and I changed her eye color from red to pink. This way I contrasted her darker skin, and I also made her face stand out a little bit more from the rest of her outfit. Oh, I forgot to mention, I decided to make Zero a goth IHOP waitress. Really, I thought this would suit her due to her more lone wolf kind of nature since she's got some trust issues. This was probably the most fun out of the set to draw, mainly because of her swirly hair, and I don't know, it's always satisfying to draw girls with swirly long hair. It was also really interesting researching more in depth on Afrogoth styles and fashion. I just thought that a lot of the looks were really pretty, so I wanted to do justice to it. Hope I actually succeeded in that front and didn't end up creating a total mess. I also ended up fixing her hand resting on her chest. For some reason, I didn't vibe with the one that I had originally drawn, so I popped off the reference and drew a new hand on top of where the old one was. To implement the goth style to her design, I turned the IHOP uniform from white to a purplish gray. I desaturated the apron and added more purple hues to make it blend better with the rest of her outfit. I also gave her a choker with her initial, although that may have been also a self-indulgent thing after listening to the soundtrack of Six the Musical for way too long. To push the gothic aesthetic even further, I gave Zero some chunky boots similar to Ava's, but I gave her a nice pair of fishnets to wrap everything together. Again, sometimes it's the little details that make the character pop. One final thing is that the thing that I had originally planned for this was to color all the line art for all the illustrations, but after finishing Zero's, I ended up deciding that it was better to leave her line art as just black in contrast to the other ones. Because of the more gothic aesthetic, I don't know, I felt that the black line art just blended in and made everything look a little bit better. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed watching me draw these characters. This challenge helped me a lot to get me to give a bit more love to some of my OCs. I'll be posting these on Instagram as well, so if you want to see the end result, you can go check them out over there. If you enjoyed watching this video, please consider giving a like, rating a comment, and or subscribe. One last thing, don't forget to click that notification bell so that you never miss another upload from me. Until next time, stay safe guys.